Sugar Shane Mosely, a native of Pomona, California, born Linwood, California, 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. So far has 58 fights, won 47 with 39 KOs, a 67% knockout ratio. Mosely is a slick boxer, puncher, who could brawl and bang with the best of them, bringing some exciting fights. Shane Mosely is known as one of this era's greats. Mosely's style is one in which being able to manipulate distance, slip punches, having great speed and reflexes, he relied on these things as his defense. His stance was one more like Joe Louis, hanging his shoulders somewhat low. He could be countered over it if the person had good enough reflexes. Shane Mosely was an offensive weapon, and he was very aggressive, landing left hooks, right hooks to the body, right uppercuts and left uppercuts, as well as right hooks and left hooks to the head, straight rights, and flicking out a jab instead of throwing a strong jab, sometimes mixing the flicking jab with a strong power jab. He would also move from orthodox to southpaw to get better position on his opponents. Shane Mosely's career began back in 1993 against Greg Puente, February 11th, whom he knocked out in the 5th round. He began his career as a super lightweight and then moved down to lightweight. His first notable win of his career was against Philip Holliday for the IBF World Lightweight title. In that fight against Philip Holliday, Shane Mosely showed strength, for he was a huge lightweight, beginning to dominate Holliday in the middle rounds and get a unanimous decision over him in the final rounds. Interestingly enough, Holliday was also an undefeated fighter when he faced Shane Mosely, August 2nd, 1997. He would go on to defend his title twice before facing John Molina, May 9th, 1998. John Molina gave him quite a great fight, the fight going to and fro until in the 8th round when Sugar Shane Mosely stopped him. He would go on to face other opponents in defenses until he faced notable opponent Jesse James Leija, November 14th, 1998. In that fight, Jesse James Leija was knocked down in the 6th, 8th, and 9th rounds, eventually not coming out for the bell in round 10, giving Sugar Shane Mosely his third notable scalp. After defeating Jesse James Leija, he faced Glenn Johnson, who he knocked out in the 7th round, and then faced John Brown, the tough, rugged veteran who no one could stop, March 17th, 1999. In that fight, John Brown took a lot of punishment from Mosely, and eventually the fight was stopped in the 8th round. Having defeated John Brown, Sugar Shane Mosely moved up 2 weight divisions to welterweight, showing that he was a huge lightweight. He faced Wilfredo Rivera, knocking him out in the 10th round, September 25th, 1999. He would have one more fight before facing the pound-for-pound champion, Oscar De La Hoya, June 17th, 2000. He would fight for the WBC World Welterweight and IBA Welterweight titles. In that fight, surprisingly enough, the smaller Sugar Shane Mosely was very competitive and was able to land the greater, more flashy shots on Oscar De La Hoya. As the fight progressed, Oscar De La Hoya looked more haggard and tired, and Mosely, though the one being hunted, looked sharper. The fight went all the way to the bell in a bang-out, and Mosely got the split decision win over Oscar De La Hoya, one of his crowning acts of his career. He would go on to rematch Oscar De La Hoya later on and get another decision win over him. He would defend his world WBC welterweight title 3 more times before facing one of his nemesis, Vernon Forrest. January 26, 2002. Vernon Forrest was 6 feet tall with an exceptionally long reach, and Mosely could not get past Vernon Forrest's reach. The longer Forrest would land punches from outside and tie up on the inside. In the end, Vernon Forrest had a unanimous decision win over Sugar Shane Mosely. He would go on to rematch Vernon Forrest. The undefeated Vernon Forrest defeated Shane Mosely yet again, showing that his style proved difficult for Mosely. He would go on to rematch Oscar De La Hoya at super welterweight, moving up yet one more division. He would win the WBC and WBA super welterweight titles. After defeating Oscar De La Hoya, Sugar Shane Mosely faced Winky Ronald Wright, a skilled southpaw, March 13th, 2004. Winky Wright gave Sugar Shane Mosely a lot of problems with his southpaw stance, being able to fight on the inside. Mosely was game, landing his straight right, and sometimes fighting in the inside, but Winky Wright would get the better of the exchanges, winning by unanimous decision down the stretch on all the judges' scorecards. He would go on to rematch Winky Wright November 20th of the same year. In this case, Winky Wright was able to get a majority decision over Mosely, once again defeating him. He would then go on February 25th, 2006 to face Fernando Vargas in a WBA light middleweight title eliminator. In the first fight, he was able to knock out Vargas in the 10th round, having a speed advantage. In the rematch, 5 months later, July 15, 2006, he would knock out Fernando Vargas in the 6th round. He would move back down to welterweight to face Louis Collazo, February 10th, 2007, another southpaw. In this fight, however, as difficult as it was, he was able to get a unanimous decision win over Louis Collazo. He was able to adapt to the southpaw stance, still getting hit with the straight left, but being able to do much more against Collazo. He would go on November 10th, 2007 to face Miguel Cotto, the undefeated WBA World Welterweight Champion. In that fight, Miguel Cotto showed how good he was, hitting Mosely with just about every single power punch he knew, including the left hook to the body. But Mosely was strong. Though Mosely could not really figure out Miguel Cotto's style throughout the fight, he was game, though he was getting tagged a lot more than he used to, therefore falling to a unanimous decision loss to Miguel Cotto. Many people thought Mosley's career was washed up after that Miguel Cotto fight, but he returned September 27th, almost a year later, to face Ricardo Mayorga in what was one of the most exciting Mosely fights in a long time. Ricardo Mayorga was tough, unorthodox, and strange. Nonetheless, Shane Mosely was able to close the show in an exciting and sensational way, knocking down Ricardo Mayorga in the 12th round, and then finally knocking him out in the final seconds of the fight. He would go on to face the dominant and dangerous Antonio Margarito, January 21st, 2009. And it was a to and fro until the 8th round, when Shane Mosely caught Antonio Margarito. He would go on to stop Antonio Margarito in the successive round of that fight. After his great wins against Antonio Margarito and Ricardo Mayorga, arguably some of his greatest wins of his career, Shane Mosely faced Floyd Mayweather Jr. May 1st, 2010. In his traditional style, he was able to hit Floyd Mayweather Jr. and stun him early in the fight, in the second round of the fight. Not once, but twice. But after that, Floyd Mayweather Jr. got very, very aggressive and began to knock Shane Mosely all around the ring, winning a unanimous decision victory over Shane Mosely. He would go to a draw against Sergio Mora at a higher weight class. He would come down to welterweight and be dominated by Manny Pacquiao. He would fight a spirited fight against Saul Canelo Alvarez. He would face Pablo Cesar Cano at welterweight and have a unanimous decision win over him, but then lose in a technical decision loss to Anthony Mundane. We will see what lies in his future, but for a man who has fought Hall of Famers as well as all-time greats, Shane Mosely is one who has given us the most exciting fights and is, of his own self, a future Hall of Famer. You guys have a great day.